So Ross, final one for you. What does all this say about households coping with the rising cost of living? There are some always at the margins, of course, and any change hurts them. But for a lot of households, that buffer, clearly they've been using that buffer that was built up during COVID. It's a question of when that buffer sort of runs out.
Yeah, I think that's the key. And it also is when the interest rate rises really do start to bite on those household budgets, because do bear in mind that generally what happens when interest rates go down, that the banks don't change your repayments, or, you know, it's a situation where you're building the buffer on your mortgage. But when interest rates rise, they do increase your payments. And so a lot of households are really going to feel the effect of the ongoing rise in interest rates that we'll see this year and into next year. The other pressure that Andrew also talks about is wages. And what you've seen here, especially with resources companies, big increases in profits. And so when the argument is that the companies are increasing their profits well ahead of the inflation rate, but wages are not keeping up with the inflation pressure, that's the argument that unions and indeed the Labor Party has really pushed against what was the previous government. And that is going to be the argument they will now use to justify the ability for companies to afford higher wages. And as I say, that is going to be one of the real battles between business and this government and unions over the coming 12 months at least.
And the question eventually will get to what Labor would specifically do on that, Andrew. In the interim, it's the Fair Work Commission decision on the minimum wage and that flowing on to other jobs. And for all the talk around, you know, is Anthony Albanese putting a number on it, he doesn't make the decision. And Labor will clearly say in its submission, you know, increase it by at least inflation. But the Fair Work Commission will likely land on something between what business says, which I think is in the sort of 2.5, 3 area, compared to unions that say 5.5.
That's right, but the government will push for minimum wage not to go backwards, so maybe it'll be 4%, who knows. That'll be the first step, but there has to be a greater steps in order to lift wages. One of them should be the Better Off Overall test. That should be revisited, but no doubt it won't be. And Christian Porter went down this path. He got employers and the unions together. They couldn't come to an agreement on how to move things forward in the IR space. I think the government's view is they will come with set proposals. They won't just have business and unions come with their proposals, and they are confident that they can do something here. It's a big ask, it's a big challenge. They've almost put it as a millstone around their neck during the last term and the last campaign, but I think there will be some wage growth with inflation in any case. It's whether it's enough for the Australian public and whether the economy can sustain it without driving up inflation further.
All right, Ross, we'll let you get away and dig into these stats. There's a lot to digest there, and Andrew, we'll see you coming up as well on Afternoon Agenda.